So if you've been watching my channel for a while, the title of this video may come as a complete shock to you. And if you're someone who's just stumbling upon my channel or this video for the very first time, you may be thinking that this is some sort of New Age to Christian pipeline story, and I can assure you that's not the case. But I do have a story to tell you guys of what's been going on in my life and why I'm deciding to stop talking about New Age content, and essentially why at this point in my life I'm kind of done with it. So here's a little bit of a backstory. When I first had my spiritual awakening, it was back in about 2014, and this really helped cure my depression at the time. I was so excited to find something that made me feel like I was more in control of my life, that, my mindset was something that I could learn to overcome. And it kind of just snowballed into just finding so much passion in this space, having some sort of a community with people who were into mindfulness and liked thinking about things that most people didn't care to think about. I'm someone who loves to uncover how things work and think about mysteries and trying to solve them. And so the concept of what is my purpose? Why am I here? Why are we all here? How did this all happen? And what's beyond what the eye can see? That's something that always has fascinated me, and still to this day is something that I'm very curious about and very drawn to. So back at this time, it was so fun for me to just dive into this completely new world where everything was so new and exciting. There was so much to learn, so many different concepts to uncover. I loved learning all the different ideologies and methodologies. I just loved absolutely everything about it. It was so fun, and I just felt like it was really helping me to overcome some depression that I was dealing with for the past few years at that time. And I had started my YouTube channel way after that even happened in my life. I just started talking about anything and everything because my YouTube channel was always a space for me to just explore what I'm doing and what I'm thinking about and what I am passionate about in that moment. For a time it was natural hair care, and then it was fashion, and then it was spirituality, because I felt like it was taking up so much of my life. I just had to share it with people. And I was so excited to do that. So I started making content on my channel. You could see all of the different videos that I had. A lot of them are private now, but some of them are still up because I still really love them and you guys love them. And it was really great to just create a community of people who had the same passions. And I really felt like I was helping people kind of overcome the things that I was overcoming through these different practices and methods. And so if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I've taken quite a long break. This is my first video back after at least 6 months. It's been a long time. I privated pretty much all of my videos for a time. I privated all of my Instagram content and a lot of my TikToks just because I needed time to really recover, first of all, from what has happened to me in the past 2 years. I have had one hell of a Saturn return, you guys. It's still going on, but we're coming out the other end. I was also starting to have this inner dilemma of wanting to be more private in my life, or wanting to not share so much about the things that I find really personal and important to me. So spirituality has always been something that's very important to me. And as I've gotten older, I'm feeling more inclined to keep that side of me more private. And I was struggling with that because all my life, or at least for the last 15 years, I'd wanted to do some sort of coaching, some sort of life coaching. And I had just started this business. I had some clients and I was loving it, absolutely loving it. But at the same time, I just felt this need to distance myself from putting that out there online. So at this point, I was having some sort of existential inner crisis of I'm starting to feel like this isn't my path anymore. What do I do? Because this has always been my dream to have this spiritual life coaching practice. And all of a sudden I'm feeling like maybe this isn't the path for me. So what do I look forward to next? What's my next chapter? So I needed time to just pause and figure that out. But then I also got myself into a situation recently that I'm a little hesitant to talk about, and I'll try to keep it very brief. And I'm already getting anxious talking about it. But the very brief rundown is that I was dating somebody who was very manipulative, and I was always the problem. Any feedback about how I was feeling or how I thought of something or anything about him, any feedback that I gave was taken as criticism or as an attack, and it would start these fights that would just go in circles, and my brain literally could not figure out what the fight was even about. He was an ex-philosophy professor, and he was the type of person who said that all of the people in his life were either the problem or were narcissists, and so I believed that at first, and now that I'm kind of distanced myself from that situation, I can kind of see what the actual truth was, if you know what I'm saying. So we had this one blowout argument, and first of all, I am a very non-confrontational person. I love to just fluff over things, like, oh, whatever, it'll be fine. Like, I do not know how to argue with anyone, so this first blowout argument we had, I had no idea what to do. I was just totally dumbfounded, and I was so confused because the conversation kept going in circles. Anytime I tried to defend myself, he would probe and be trying to find the deeper answer to what I was saying, and eventually all the answers would just be well, it's just how I feel, or I care because I just care, or I don't know, just have faith, those kinds of things, where it's just getting down to the root of whatever it is. And then the fight would end with him kind of saying, well, it's just an issue of semantics then. And I'm over here what the hell does that mean? And then he would go into his philosophy background and say oh, well, my words hold no weight because Derrida says that your words just collapse on themselves during your argument or something like that. And I'm over here I am your average person who has no idea what you're talking about. So I'm leaving this argument what was this even about? How did this start? But all I knew was that he wasn't willing to give me clarity on the situation or how this argument started, because if I didn't know, then that was the problem. I was cool. So what I assumed was the problem was that this argument happened after I gave him a tarot reading, which he was super excited about and seemed to be very open about. And so my brain assumed oh, I'm the problem here. It's the spiritual side, that's the problem. And when we first started going out, he said that he loved that I was spiritual. We would have these really amazing, deep conversations because he had the philosophy background. I have studied for years on all different topics within the spirituality space. And I just started to feel like I was walking on eggshells all of the time with him because of how argumentative he was and how confrontational he was. And all of the time, it kind of started with something along the lines of me either giving feedback or giving advice from this space of life coaching, oh, just look to the positive side. And he'd be well, I don't believe in good or bad, and just things like that. So anytime I would say anything that in any way related to spirituality, or I feeling like a good person, I don't know, I was the bad guy. And so I just started to keep all of that private to myself. I was you know what? This is my safe thing. I just want to keep it to myself. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't feel safe expressing myself in this way anymore. And it was something that I started to really resent about myself. I was why am I this person? It must be so annoying to all my friends, to all my followers. Oh my God, it's going to make me cry. This side of me must be so freaking annoying. Just being that positive person and wanting to help people, some people don't want that. And but at the same time, I really did like him, so I was willing to not talk about this. And I was oh, I can just pretend that this part of me doesn't exist, and maybe eventually it won't exist anymore. I always felt my body was responding to the situation as well. Even now, I feel so anxious, and that's how it felt walking on eggshells around him. So me being me and the person who always wants to study new things and be able to put myself in someone's shoes, I decided to start studying, I was going to say astrology. I started studying philosophy so that I could kind of learn how to argue in a way that would match him, and so that I could kind of think more like him, because obviously he was not open to how I was expressing myself or my spiritual side. So I was like, okay, so obviously there's something I'm missing, and there's another way of interpreting the world. I want to understand, and I want to be able to empathize and put myself in other people's shoes who don't have the same worldview as me. So I started studying philosophy, and I actually really enjoyed it. I felt like it was very similar to spirituality, but to me it felt more like the masculine side of things. So spirituality is very feminine. It's more of like having the faith and the things that are beyond the physical, what we can see, but philosophy is rooted like very much in the physical and coming up with logical arguments. And yeah, I enjoyed having that other side to the scale to balance that out. I ended up reading this book called The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus, and it put me into a major existential crisis, and it destroyed my worldview, but at the same time, I also really enjoyed it, and I do think it changed me for the better. This book is basically about absurdism, and it's kind of like the idea that everything is random, the universe is totally meaningless and purposeless, and it's about finding a way to live in a way that's fulfilling despite the purposelessness. And as someone who's come from the world of New Age spirituality, it's all about living your purpose and like feeling so deeply connected to something else and your purpose, and that we're all one and we're all connected. And so having this idea in my brain, I was like, oh my God, what if everything is purposeless and meaningless? And I just got so depressed. I got so depressed because of that. I got so depressed because of, like, I couldn't verbalize this to anyone, because everyone I know in my personal life and on YouTube knows me as this person who, like, this is my life. Spirituality had been my life. It was something I was so passionate about. I was always studying something. And if I wasn't, I was always looking to, oh, well, one day I'm going to be this life coach and I'm going to change so many people's lives. So it was always just my story. So having that really shake my foundation was really hard to go through, especially alone, not feeling like I could talk about that with anyone. Anyway, while I was dating this guy, I kind of adopted this idea of absurdism as a self-preservation technique, so that I didn't have to express my spirituality and then cause arguments anymore. But one thing I will say is that in the Kabbalion, there is something, I can't remember what it is. I think it's called the law of rhythm. And it's basically saying that the degree that the pendulum swings to the right is the degree that it'll swing to the left. Like, the pendulum always swings. And I reference this a lot. And I had spent so long all the way over here, and I feel like I kept going all the way up into, like, diving so deep into spirituality. And then I swung completely the other way and crashed out. And now I definitely feel like I'm back in the middle. Like, I have this grounded approach. I've taken time to really integrate everything I've learned over the last 15 years on this journey, this spiritual journey that I've been on. I had swung so far to the one direction where it was like my life, and it was my entire worldview, and it was my passion, my hobby, my work, my dream. And then it all came crashing down, where I started to feel like I didn't want to talk about it anymore. Like, I wasn't safe to express myself in that way, because to me it caused my body to panic, because it would cause arguments, and I just really started to resent that side of myself. And I started to actually hate that part of myself. And the crazy thing is, when I first started dating this guy, he asked me, what's my favorite thing about myself? What's the thing I love the most about myself? And I said, I love my mind. I love the way I think. I love my worldview. I love the way I view situations. And then it's crazy how that ended up becoming the thing I hated about myself by the end. But it's been a little bit since that whole situation ended. I'm actually really grateful for it. So if this guy is watching, I am very grateful for that. I learned a lot, and I actually learned a lot by going completely to the other side, and stepping really far into philosophy, and, like, for a time not believing in anything. And learning what life would feel like if I didn't have that perspective. And I feel like that gives me a more well-rounded view of the world and how people operate. You can kind of imagine the existential crisis that was going on inside of me, because not only did I not want to speak about this anymore, but I had no goal, because my goal for so long had been to build this business of life coaching and have it be my career in the end. Like, obviously I have a full-time job too now, but I always had this other goal. And then once that other goal was gone, I felt like, what am I doing with my life? Like, everything was just up in the air. I've had my Saturn return, like I said, has been insane. So many things have happened that I never saw coming. And it was just something I felt really ashamed about, because how gross is it that like a man can make you change so much? Not make me. A man's perspective can influence how you view yourself and ultimately how you change your worldview. I don't know. You know what I'm saying. How gross is that? Like, I was very ashamed. So here I am coming back to my home base, my happy place here on the internet. I'm so happy to be back. I missed it a lot, and I just didn't know what to say or what to post. I was just, how do you go from posting like all of these like very spiritual, new agey topics to like nothing and not knowing what to say anymore? So I feel like the pendulum has swung back to the middle. I'm very much still spiritual, but I don't know what that looks like for me anymore. Why am I getting emotional? I also don't really care to dive into that right now in my life. I'm also very grateful that I have this other perspective, like bringing in the logic and the philosophy, and it's something I do want to keep studying. I really enjoy it. This title is hard for me to write because it's not like I'm done with it forever. Like, I think for now I'm done talking about it on YouTube as a way of teaching. I'd rather have it just be more sprinkled within conversations that I'm doing in vlogs or something like that. So I'm at this point in my life where I feel like I have started to integrate all of the different things, like the lessons and the methodologies and the different concepts, and I'm starting to really integrate that into the physical right now. Like, I spent so much of my 20s and my teens like out here, where now I'm bringing that into the physical way more than I ever have. I'm really focusing on myself and just letting the spiritual go, just letting it go and seeing who I am without it. Not that it's not a part of me, because it's always going to be a part of me, but I just want to learn what else there is to me besides that. Like, what else I have to offer the world besides that side of me. And while I don't want to talk about necessarily new age spirituality, the thing that I'm really focusing on right now in life is the physical, but also more of my feminine essence, like beauty and dating and relationships and friendships and having more fun and discovering new hobbies, feeling more confident and glowing up. I just turned 30, so it's like this whole new feeling of, oh my God, I am officially an adult, and yet I'm completely feeling like I'm starting over. So I do feel really blessed that this all has happened and that I'm on the other side and I can see it for like the beauty that it was, even though it was really hard. And as far as my channel, I am done with my break. I am back. Things are gonna look different, but it's gonna be fun. Not so much sit down, well, maybe videos like this, but not so much teaching videos, more of like what I'm doing, life lessons, vlogs, all sorts of fun things. I'm traveling next month and doing something a little crazy, so you guys have to stick around for that. But yes, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being patient with me if you've stuck around with me for the past 6 months where I haven't uploaded at all. And I'll see you guys very, very soon with another video. Bye!